So I guess I want to just start by asking if any of you have meditated before. So maybe just hands,
Maybe a little.
a little. Okay. And as Carol was pointing out when we were chatting before, there's lots of different kinds of meditation. And this is mindfulness. So I'll hopefully describe that before we get started. There's mantras, there's visualizations, there's concentration practices, there's lots of different ways, or reflecting on a scriptural passage is another way to meditate. But this is mindfulness. And it's, quite popular, as you all probably have heard, here in the West these days. But its roots are in ancient India, and I just want to acknowledge that it is rooted in the Buddhist tradition specifically, but it was before that as well. I learned it initially from my teacher Anjali in 1973, Anjali Inti, who was an immigrant from Calcutta. And many of my more recent teachers either studied in the East, in Asia, with Asian teachers, or were students of them themselves. So it's a very rich tradition. Also, just to say that it's not the only way to do Buddhism. I think we had a little taste of this in one of the church services, but there, mindfulness isn't new here. Buddhism isn't new. Asian immigrant communities have been here for over 100 years, Buddhist churches. And they called themselves a church because that's what you did here to get any kind of credibility. But and even structured a lot of some of the churches like Christianity, again, just to survive. But in Asia, here and in Asia, most lay people don't practice meditation. Ethics is considered the primary practice, and chanting is often involved, but it's not something that everybody does just because you're Buddhist in Asia. And it varies a lot from culture to culture, too, from country to country. Um, so I want to say that too. We could maybe have done a little better with some of the ethics on this end, given some of the scandals with teachers over the years. Um, but this mindfulness, this particular kind of meditation, is based on the Satipatthana Sutta, which is a very early Buddhist text attributed to the Buddha. There are 4 sections. One is on breath, one is on body, one is on it's called mental mind states, but that also includes emotions. And the last is really like the teachings. And Buddhism has like huge, long treatises on everything. But this one is actually a quite accessible practice manual, even 2,500 years later. And it's come to us more popularly here in the United States through John Kabat-Zinn, who was a Zen practitioner. He had a Korean Zen teacher in the Northeast. Same teacher, one of my teachers, Trudy Goodman, had. He was part of that same community. And he was working with people with chronic pain at UMass Amherst as a researcher. And it occurred to him at some point that the practice that he does might be useful for people. These are people with long-term illnesses or chronic pain, and that weren't getting any relief any other way. And he thought, what do I have to lose? And he developed a whole program. It was quite successful, called mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is probably the most widely known. It's all over the world now. And I just want to say that mindfulness it sounds like this is a mind game, as the word mind, the way it was translated. Another way to translate that word sati from Pali is remembering. It's actually a more literal translation. So it's about remembering to be in the present moment. Um, and it's helpful to kind of hold that. It's not just about what's going on in your mind, it's your whole human experience that's involved here. um, I I don't know if any of you have heard this in the news, but it's quite well known in Buddhist communities that there's been a lot of research, of course, on mindfulness now, and some of the research subjects in Wisconsin at the lab there were their initial subjects were Tibetan monks because they had such long meditative experience. And there's this image of them with, like, electrodes all over their head, getting geared up for this practice, and the monks are cracking up. And the translator asked, so so what's so funny? I mean, they assumed it was, just that these weird things coming out of their head, but it was actually, they said, you think the mind is here, and we know it's here. And it's such a instructive teaching right there. The word for mind, one of the words for mind in Sanskrit and Pali is chitta, and in the Asian culture and tradition, it actually means heart mind. They don't separate that out. So
Good for them.
again, it's something I like to remind myself of too. So the practice of mindfulness is just about intentionally bringing our awareness to the present moment, and to do it in a particular way, with intention, with curiosity, with kindness, with self-compassion when we need that, because of course the present moment isn't always pleasant and sometimes it's quite painful. But regardless, we are encouraged to hold these attitudes of care, kindness, compassion. And the reason we practice in this way is to bring more skill toward the way we relate to life, and to ease the suffering in our own, our own lives, support our own well-being. The number one misconception about mindfulness is that it's about stopping your thoughts. So you may think, oh, I can't do this. My thoughts are crazy. They're all over the place. So I just want to just kind of put that out there, that is a misconception. It's not true. It's about being with your experience and relating to it in this particular way, with kindness, compassion, awareness, clarity. So I just want to normalize mind wandering before we actually do the practice, because it's normal. it just is. Like even if we do a little experiment now, I'll ring a bell, and you can put your hand up and put your hand down as soon as you have a thought of any sort. So if you want to play along with me, just put your hand up. I'm going to ring the bell, and then after I ring the bell, as soon as you have any thought, put your hand down. Wow, we have thoughts. One of the teachers who's actually I was in the group I trained with says the mind secretes thoughts like the mouth secretes saliva. It's just nature. It's just what happens. And it happens for a reason. We didn't survive as a species because we were the strongest or the fastest, but we used our awareness of danger, and we're sort of habitually scanning for danger in situations where we don't need it, but it's kind of our genetic inheritance. So we're going, as the Buddha said at one point, against the stream in a way, trying to work with those ancient currents running through our nervous system. So as a support to developing present moment awareness, we usually work with an anchor, and that anchor for our awareness is something that's happening in the present moment. So it can be sound, it can be breath, it can be body sensations, it can be thoughts, emotions, anything that's happening in this moment. And we're going to start really simple with sound, and then I'm going to move through body sensations a little bit, and then into breath. But I just want you to be aware that just notice the differences, because it may be that we often think of using the breath, but it's not the best anchor for everyone. It doesn't, some people space out more with it or get more anxious or whatever. So you take care of yourself, and I'm giving you 3 different anchors so that you have choice in this. I read something recently, or heard something actually. This speaker, he's a young Black mindfulness teacher. I don't know if he's connected with the Buddhist tradition at all. He didn't reference it, but he said this really hilarious thing: if you can worry, you can meditate. Because worry is you over and over again, right? You're going to the same thing. Well, over and over again, we return to our anchor: sound, breath, body, whatever it is. We know how to do that. So we're just doing it with a different intention and with a different attitude, that kindness and compassion. So the way the practice goes is I'll offer an anchor. You keep your awareness there. And when you notice it's not there, as we saw with the hand experiment, it will go very quickly. That actually is a moment of mindfulness. And some of the encouragement for some teachers is to smile, actually, just love the little smile, because it reminds us that, well, first of all, smiling releases endorphins. So we're less likely to tense up around that, thinking, oh, I did something wrong. I'm no longer with the sound. And it also is acknowledging that this actually is a moment of mindfulness. I notice the mind spinning off. And that's what the practice is. Noticing it without reacting and judging yourself for it, and returning to the anchor. Now, there's lots more to the tradition, and lots of more complex ways to meditate too, but this is the practice in its most simple form. So without further ado, I can lead us in a practice, but I just want to see if there's any question before we begin.
I'm just curious, will it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or?
Good question. So what are you all comfortable with? I can adjust it. I was thinking about 15 minutes, but if that feels too long to you, and you're feeling like you're getting tense around the amount of time, then just relax. Don't try to meditate. Don't do anything. Just be with the way it is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was listening to the anchors, but could you tell us again how you're going to inject those in? Are you going to suggest them one at a time?
Yes.
And then you'd like us to try them, and then if one of them doesn't work for us, we can jump to another one.
Yeah, so we'll go through the 3, and then I'm going to stay with the breath. But if that's anxiety producing or just completely not accessible to you, sound is a really good one actually to go back to, because it's outside the body. So if we have, especially trauma, lives in the body. And for some people, this practice is absolutely been a ticket in part, an important part of healing trauma. And for others, not. Or they have to be more strategic about how they do it. So I just want to give you permission to take care of yourself, basically. Thanks for that question, Jean. Yeah, and any other question before we start?
And I think everybody mute yourself while we're meditating.
Except me. Also, I'm in a different space than I usually am when I'm teaching, and I don't know how this bell sounds, so I apologize. The bells don't translate well over Zoom, so you'll let me know afterwards if it's jarring at all. But
Did you play the bell yet?
well, here it goes. No, but here. Does that sound all right? It's great? Okay, good. Has to do with, I think, too, the position with the sound of the It's actually behind my computer, which maybe that's a better place. What else? Please sit comfortably, and comfort is different for each of us. So if you need like a little pillow behind your back, like I have, a firmer seating, if you want to lie down, that's perfectly fine. If you do, you might want to roll a little towel under your neck or blanket under your knees to keep the pressure off the low back. It doesn't matter what position, it doesn't matter what anchor. What matters is the quality of the attention that we're bringing to it. It also doesn't matter whether you have your eyes open or closed. Some traditions, they always keep their eyes open. So again, just to be a little trauma sensitive here, it can be, this probably happens more when we're in a group, but it could be activating to close your eyes. No one has to close their eyes. Some people prefer their eyes open, but just keep them downcast if you'd like to keep your eyes open, which is what I'll do just so I can sort of track the screen too a little bit as I lead. Yeah, so I think
We're supposed to raise our hand when we have a thought.
No, not this time,
Not now.
Bonnie. We're just going to assume you're having lots of them.
I'm sorry, say it again.
We're going to assume you're having lots of thoughts.
Oh,
I know I
gosh.
will be.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just allowing just all the talk that we did to settle. Feeling this moment just as it is in your body, in your space, your environment. And just maybe setting an intention here as we begin to be with your present moment experience in as kind and non-judgmental way as you can. And also to be willing to just start over again when you realize you've been spinning out. That is actually the heart of the practice, is that capacity to begin again. So opening to sound in your environment. Opening to sound in a receptive way, so we're not reaching out or searching for sound, but simply receiving it. Likewise, some sounds like the bird calling outside my window may be quite pleasant. And there's some machine intermittently going on and off in my neighborhood. It might feel like unpleasant. And some sounds may be completely neutral. So the practice is about cultivating this kind, accepting awareness for how it is, however it is. And as much as possible, letting the words of my voice be in the background. Would you let your own felt experience be in the foreground? Some sounds may be constant, most likely are intermittent. for receiving sound. We're also receiving silence when the sound ends. When the thoughts wander, we notice that's happening. We simply recognize that as a moment of mindfulness. We're aware of what's happening. Smile if you like, and begin again. And then letting sound drop into the background, inviting awareness of the body, beginning with the feet, feeling the weight of the body connecting to the floor or supporting surface. Feeling the sensations of contact, the bottoms of your feet as they meet the surface. Lots of nerve endings in the bottom of our feet that are out of our awareness most of the time. So we're inviting that awareness. And also sensing that the earth is holding us. If your mind is spinning or things feel hard, just feeling that connection we have with the earth can be very grounding. And we also feel that in our hips, the weight of gravity, the sit bones, the back of our thighs, wherever the body makes contact with the surface. And if you're sitting upright, you might want to rock back and forth just slightly till you find the center point. for your body that will support a posture that is alert but relaxed. And sensing into the spine and the muscles around it that hold us upright, support us. Perhaps you feel sensation of the back against the chair or cushion. You need those muscles to be engaged along the spine, but maybe we're also holding in places that we don't need to. It might be able to relax, inviting relaxation. We can't insist, but we can suggest. So checking the hands, gripped or relaxed, warm or cold. And up into our shoulders, maybe allowing the backs of our shoulder blades to slide a little bit backwards. And the facial muscles can invite a softening around the mouth, the cheeks, the eyes, the forehead. And holding for a moment the sense of the whole body, feeling its aliveness. Appreciating all it enables us to experience. And just allowing that overall sense of the body to be in the background and move to the breath. Inviting a awareness of the sensations of breathing. What does it feel like to be a breathing being? Maybe sensing the energizing energy of the in-breath and the releasing, relaxing energy of the out-breath. If the mind is wandering, you recognize that. Smile if you like, and bring the attention back to the breath. can also use some noting practice here. So when we become aware of thinking, just to note thinking, to name it. Or if it's a pain in your knee, in your back, noting whatever sensation is felt, and then returning to the breath. I notice how we don't have to direct the breath. It knows just what to do. Trusting the breath to breathe just as it needs to. No effort, no striving, just breathing. You may find that you notice the breath, the sensations of breathing more clearly in one area, such as the belly or the chest or the tip of the nostrils as the cool air comes in and the warm air goes out. So if that's true for you, you can just rest your attention in that one place and receive the breath as it moves through that area. Feeling the expansion of the inhale, softening and release of the exhale. As we bring the meditation to a close, just offer some appreciation to yourself for giving you some time just to be human beings, not human doings. And just being can support our sense of well-being. And any benefit from our practice here flow through us and out into the world as we send a wish. May all beings be happy, including us. May all beings be well and safe. May all beings live with ease. So thank you all for your willingness to give this a try. Certainly open for any questions or comments, or if you want to share what your experience was. Yeah, Jean.
I'll start out. First of all, I felt this tremendous relief at being kind to myself. I've been really hard on myself this past few weeks because we're working to clear out a storage unit. 15 by 15, it's full of things, and we're paying an immense fee for it every month. And I don't do well when things change locations. I'm very visual, and so I expect things to be where I put them. And of course, cleaning out a storage unit is very chaotic. And so I've been feeling like I've been in chaos, and I've been doing things that are uncharacteristic, bumping into walls and dropping things, which I don't usually do. And I've been really hard on myself. Instead of being compassionate, it's like, oh, there it goes again, that kind of thing. So it was lovely to feel compassionate toward myself. And then it's interesting, I went through these different stages during the meditation. The second one was seeing designs inside my eyelids, little lights flashing and little drawings almost appearing in front of my eyes. Very interesting. And then I had some little dreamlets. I don't think I was falling asleep, but I had little dreams that happened very quickly. One of them was a dancing stalk of celery. I mean, it's very crazy things. And there were others that included people that I didn't know and places. It was very interesting. Um, but I enjoyed all of the anchors too. I liked being able to have all those because I noticed that when I was listening to sounds, I was not aware of my body at all. And when I was in the body, what's the other one?
Breath.
I wasn't aware of the breath at all.
Mm.
So it was it was wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I think you point to something that has been so key to me, which is that when we do this regularly over time, and it's not just about these formal times, it's obviously about hearing that critical voice, right? When you bump into something. A teacher once said to me, pay attention to the quality of your self-talk. Like, how do we speak to ourselves? I know you're all incredibly generous, kind, loving people to the people around you. I've been around you a long time. And I also know that was a huge challenge for me. And it's not like it's gone away, but it's definitely softened. And one of the ways to soften that voice is to soften when we hear it. Like, oh, honey, you're trying to take care of me. This isn't working, but appreciate the effort. I think a lot of our anxieties, really are some kind of self-protection, right? We want ourselves to be safe. But it gets distorted because we are so steeped in self-judgment in our culture in a way that isn't true of every culture. You know, there's a famous story of, I think it was the first time a bunch of Western teachers met with the Dalai Lama, and they were asking him, like, well, what do you do when people come to you with self-hatred? And he just kept, the translator, saying it over and over again. Like, it wasn't like, what? You guys really have this? And they're all like, yeah, all of us, you know? So it is cultural. And, you know, we were talking, you know, earlier at the very beginning of this conversation, it's all of a piece, right? You can't demean someone else and really fundamentally not do it to yourself. It's this deep-seated pattern that we have. So we really do believe that the way we treat ourselves is not only if we can work with that self-transforming, but it's heals the society too, right? Because who's the society but all of us? Yeah, Carol.
I would love to have been with Jean on all of her travels, but I think I was so needy that all I could think of was how good it feels, how good it feels. And I went in and out and always came back to how good it feels, and it did.
Yeah.
And I thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Pleasure's okay. The place that becomes not okay is when we expect it to be that way every time, because it won't
Right.
be.
No, I'm sure. By the way, I must ask you, do you have a special time when you like to meditate?
I meditate in the morning, sometimes in the evening with groups. Actually, I lead a group every Tuesday night. Everybody's welcome. It's free, and I teach. But yeah, in the morning, I also do meditation retreats. I'm doing one next week, which these days is virtual. But I actually kind of set up a space at home, and I practice a lot in my backyard, actually. Um, this will be 11 days, but you know, they vary in length.
What's different when you don't have no noise? Now where I live, I can hear road noise. I don't like road noise. So that was my interrupter, but then I could get rid of it when I was doing the meditation. Does it make a whole lot of difference how quiet it is where you are?
Well, you know, quiet is conducive to you hearing your own thoughts, I guess, you know, but it really doesn't matter, because everything can be held mindfully. So the invitation from the practice is, can I be with road noise? I had airplane noise. I don't know what's going on. Some neighbors doing some work, you know, that's loud out there. I have a next door neighbor, who's going to start building one of those ADUs in the backyard. So it's going to be loud for a really long time. So how do we relate to what our experience is? So some of us can't accept pleasure. Like, I must be doing something wrong if it feels good. Like, we've just been schooled that anything valuable has to come with a painful price, you know? And also, you know, our irritations are the place of practice, actually. They give us that opportunity to practice. How can I be with this sound, this person, the dearest one in my life who annoys the heck out of me, you know, like whoever, right? Whatever. Can I be with that too? With curiosity, kindness, compassion. So it's just kind of coming back to that as a basic orientation. And when the self-judgment is there, holding that with compassion, you know, like it's like the house of mirrors, you know, you can always go back another level and hold what's happening, if you hold to that intention. Thank you. Anybody else? Bob?
Well, I once heard something, and I think you might agree with it. It's sort of comforting to me. It was that trying to meditate is meditating. And it makes me feel more like I don't fail to meditate.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and I think some of the wisdom of that is around this idea that we think it's supposed to be a certain way, right?
Mhm.
Like, meditating means I'm going to be here and have blissful experiences like Carol did, or have wonderful visualizations like Jean did, you know, like, I mean, all of that can happen in the same session, including misery, because the mind keeps going, right? I heard someone in a meditation retreat very early on in the Buddhist practice. He said, I had an insight he wanted to share it with the group. It was awesome. He said, expectation equals premeditated resentment. I want it to be this way. I want the neighborhood to sound like this. I want the storage unit to be like this. I want this art piece to be like that. I want my loved one to be like this, right? We expect it. We set ourselves up, and then we're like confused, disappointed, mad, enraged. Why aren't they doing it? I heard when I was a teenager, there was these folk singers in Rochester, and there's this line from a song that really cracks me up that's related to this, and it's he's mournful, the love story has gone awry. How could you not be all that I dreamed? It's like,
Yeah.
that's hilarious. Like, I decided you're going to be this way, and you weren't. What's up with you? So yeah, a lot of wisdom in that, and that effort. Effort's a funny thing because we don't want it to be tight, like a gripping kind of effort. But we want. When I taught kids, I would say something like, "Don't sit like a board. Don't sit like a noodle. Like something in between." It's kind of how we hold our experience too. We have to have enough effort to stay aware. And if we're noticing the mind is wandering, then we're aware. That is a moment of awareness. So it's just the expectation that it be something different than that that is at issue. Does that make sense, Bob?
Yeah. I wanted to add, definitely. I wanted to add, as I mentioned, I'm working on this writing project now. And when I'm doing that, I do a lot of thinking, even when I would like to take a break from thinking. You know what I mean? My mind is just always trying to figure out what's going into the next paragraph, even when I'm not sitting at the.
Yes, I do now.
And that's part of what would tempt me to think that I had failed to meditate today. But I realize this is helpful. And
Yeah, and
doing it more often would definitely be a good idea for me.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it has been for me anyway. Sometimes when the mind's really active, it's helpful to do walking meditation. So if I'm either in that really agitated mental state or like really mad about something or something, and I want to calm down, in this tradition, the Vipassana Buddhist tradition, you walk a path like 10, 15 feet. You're not going anywhere. Then you turn around and you walk back. And it can be in your room, like it doesn't have to be any special place. But you pour your awareness into your feet, the sensations of moving or just lifting, placing, feeling gravity, and then just like any other anchor, every time it's not there, you bring it back. And that can, sometimes I'll do that before I sit to kind of unwind a little bit when there's a lot of energy there, a lot of mental energy.
Warm now, so I can go walk around in my yard.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you, Maureen.
You're welcome. Thank you all for coming. Any other question or comment? Anyone want to? Yeah.
I was really sleepy, and I fell asleep a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, falling asleep. And then I really couldn't hear your voice. And
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wish I could have. But so then I came over here because I was sitting on the couch. But anyway, I like that. I heard that let's see, what is that? Expectation is a resentment under construction. I think that was cute too.
Expectation is premeditated resentment.
Yeah, I know, but heard it as somebody else once told me.
Hmm.
It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Meditation is a resentment under construction. But anyway, sometimes I wonder, well, what's the purpose of this again?
That's a great question.
I do wonder that. But
Yeah.
I know I'm very distractible. I'm very distracted a lot of the times. And I think this would be an antidote if you spend some time in not being distracted. So the other thing, another meditation teacher, Adyashanti, talks about just let everything be as it is, because the mind will calm down, but thoughts always come, of course. But anyway, that's all. Those are all my thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So I hope I can track it all. Sleepiness, right? So maybe the middle of the afternoon isn't the best time for you to meditate, or at least today, right? Like it does help to find your best time. That said, you could meditate and lying down in bed before you go to sleep every night. You can do it that way too. The worst thing that could happen is you fall asleep, and that's what you're trying to do. So it's very individual. I had one parent, a working parent, that was in a beginner class with me, and she figured out, she left for work 10-15 minutes earlier and sat in her car in the parking garage, because that's the only time she was ever alone. Like we each have to figure that out for ourselves. That said, you can be mindful of sleepiness.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm doing a meditation retreat, I'm meditating all day long, I'm going to be sleepy. There's no question, especially the first couple of days, because we're so used to when we stop, that means go to sleep, right? So often people get sleepy when they start meditating, because that's what the body knows to do when you stop everything else. So it's kind of like a relearning a little bit. But we can be mindful of nodding head. We can be mindful of shallow breath. We can be mindful of the shoulders, hooking over. We can be mindful of waking up if we just went out for a couple minutes. So all of that can be held in mindfulness too.
Good.
Yeah. And then there was a second part. What was it?
Let everything be as it is. And I also said, what is this for anyway?
Oh yeah, what's the purpose? Good question. There are many. The purpose has to do with your intention. So this practice is embedded in the Buddhist tradition, and the purpose was awakening, freedom from suffering. I mean, it was the big purpose. These are practices that the Buddha engaged in that helped him get there. And so he's sharing it with others because this worked for me. He never says it'll work for you. He says, try it yourself. The laboratory of your own experience. That's a big purpose. More frequently in this culture, people are using it for just as a support for their well-being. And I'm not saying just in a belittling way, like, if we all had a more robust sense of well-being, the world would be a different place. And so I don't think there's ever any practicing for oneself. Every practice I do is for others, in the sense that I'm with others, and you are who you are, right? And it helps us get closer to who we are without all the extras of pattern, habit, inheritance, thought patterns, all that kind of stuff that gets layered on top.
Yeah.
So, and not only are we practicing for others, I really practice for my ancestors. That's such an important part for me, has become that. Like probably all of us, right? There was a lot of trauma, being Irish, and having a grandparent from Northern Ireland, one from the South. Yeah. So I just think, well, my ancestors were just trying to survive. Likely, I mean, maybe some of them found it through church or religion, but most probably didn't have access to a whole sense of calm and peace because we're just trying to survive. And I think that to any extent that I can kind of soften like that, for me, Jean, that harsh self-talk is definitely inherited. It's definitely taught and modeled with my mother, talking to herself, but like it was there. And it's a function of that generational trauma. So whenever I can meet that inner judgment with some kindness and understanding and, hey, I know you're trying to take care of me, but I'm actually not going to go that way right now. Thanks. You can rest. I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for them. So there is this, one of the most pervasive outcomes of research on people who meditate is that they feel more connected to others. And it's not mechanical. It's not like sitting here listening, following your breath makes you connected to others, but except it kind of does, apparently. I think self-regulation makes us easier to be with other people, makes social connection more available. And we all know that, difficult people in our lives push people away, and the less social support you have, the lower quality of life and even life expectancy, mostly. So we're all connected. Yeah, and it's not even like mystical. It's quite real.
Right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bonnie,
Good week. It's going to be a good week, and we have you to thank for it.
Oh, thank you. And all of my teachers behind me.
There are books on the subject. There was a guy at Harvard, a doctor, who did a lot of research on meditation. One of the first people to do it. It was a good book, but I can't think of his name or the name of it. But there's all sorts of things. I've got high blood pressure because I'm an ancient one. It's good for high blood pressure. I know it can lower it.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about all of the, the research outcomes, greater calm, better concentration, even though it's not a concentration practice. It's just that ability to be in the present. And also this sense of connection with others is enhanced, and how to be a friend. Just learning how to be a friend to that harsh inner critic that probably most of us have. How to befriend ourselves, and in doing all of that, we're developing also a healthier relationship to change. Change is a fact of life, and as Jean was pointing out with this transition you're going through, we resist it all the time. We want things to be a certain way, and they're not. And so just becoming more resilient, again, in ourselves makes us more available for whatever work we do, whatever ways we show up in the world and in our relationships.
I apologize to break in, but I have to go. Thank you so much, Maureen. Thanks, Jeannie. Thanks, everybody. Great to see you all.
Jeannie.
Yeah,
Jeannie,
I got to go. Oh,
Jeannie,
I left my window open so the recording continues.
Jean, I just want to say it's just so fun. Like different people come here and share, and we all come and listen to each other, and it's just such a wonderful model. Thank you.
It is wonderful. I enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
This was great.
It is good that she's doing that for us every week. And thank you, Maureen, for today.
Right.
Amen. Thank you.
Any more comments? Ready to go? All right.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Great to see you all.
See you Saturday.
Everybody,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
thank you.